Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert. You're listening to Incredible Life Creator Podcast. My guest today is Deborah Day Fawaz. Deborah Day Fawaz has been in the image business for over 11 years. She has been doing makeup for others for 40 years. She works with men and women to elevate their physical presence, thereby reflecting their personality, lifestyle, and their brand. She does this through image consultation, color analysis, professional makeup application, personal shopping, workshops, and professional speaking. She is the founder and CEO of DDFaces by Deborah. Welcome to the podcast, Deborah.
Thank you, Dr. Kimberly. So happy to be here.
Yes, so you are a product of what you do because there is no way you've been doing this for 40 years. You look fabulous.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes. So just so people get to know you, tell us about your journey of how you got to be doing this for 40 years.
So I grew up I grew up in Illinois, and my father was a Methodist minister, and my mother was the perfect minister's wife, meaning she felt she was a reflection of him. I was the oldest of two kids, the only daughter, so I then had to be a perfect reflection of her. So she was concerned that I did everything as far as like makeup and clothing right. So a couple things were going on. One is we didn't have a lot of money. I was 5'9" when I was 12 years old, so the store-bought clothes did not fit me well. And so she was a seamstress, so she sewed all of my clothes, and she did a lovely job of it. But I will tell you that it was my teenage fantasy to be able to walk into a store and purchase clothing like my friends got to do. I didn't get to do that. So that started my interest in fashion, really. And then for my 16th birthday, she took me to a store called Merle Norman. Have you ever heard of that?
Yes.
They're still around today, actually. So it's a storefront that's a cosmetics store, and she took me there to get a makeup lesson so that I did everything right, and I was interested in hair and makeup then as well, but that was taking this girl into the candy store. So that was like, oh. And so then I started doing my friends' makeup, and then I went to college and I did everybody's makeup in the sorority, and on it went until I finally decided to start my own business and monetize my fun hobby and passion. And it became, just everything about your physical presence, because I loved the clothing. I got certified in color analysis so that I could work with people and figure out what colors look best on them for clothing, their hair color, makeup, what's most complementary to people. So that's really kind of how it all evolved.
Wow. So you've been doing this for 40 years. So how do you actually work with people? Do you have a storefront or are you working with them on consultations?
Mm-hmm. Good question. I work with them one-on-one or in small groups. So my favorite service that I offer to people is called Make Me Fabulous. It's my VIP day where I work one-on-one with people. And we start with an analysis basically of how many different looks do they need? Where do you go? What do you do? And I know that's a little different right now, but some people work from home, but they're also professional speakers. They might be on the stage. They might do a podcast like you, whatever that is. So we determine how many different looks you need and what clothing and if you're a woman, makeup look would be best for what you do. And then I teach that to the person. And after we analyze the colors, that usually leads us into the closet where we do an audit of what's not serving you anymore, what's most complementary to you, what would be an appropriate look for networking, for speaking. What do we avoid when we're a speaker? Those types of things. So it's a full day, and at the end, I serve you a meal and we celebrate your new fabulous self with some bubbly.
Hmm. Oh, that sounds wonderful. So when you talk about going into the closet and auditing, this this shiver of fear comes into me. So I'm one of those people that, so I am not married, so I have the whole huge closet to myself. But
Mhm.
not only that, I have this rack like you see in the store that has two sides full of clothes. So I really like clothes. And the thought of someone coming in and telling me I have to take some clothes away is really, really frightening to me. So how do you deal with that? Because I bet I'm not the only one feeling that way.
Absolutely not. In fact, some people just say, Deborah, you're not coming in my closet.
It's like sacred, right?
No, not going to happen. Mm-mm. And that's okay. It's not for everybody. It just depends. I talk to people about, having an intervention in their closet. Like some people need a black clothing intervention because 2/3 of their closet is black. And and black isn't bad, but it serves a purpose. And we don't want that to be your uniform because
Mhm.
there isn't anything very memorable and exciting about black unless you learn how to accessorize it with something that really pops. That's a conversation starter, like a scarf you bought in Italy, or a really awesome pair of sparkly earrings or something like that.
Mhm.
So yes, the closet intervention thing is huge. And changing the language in our current times, we used to say, oh, if you haven't worn this in a year, let's talk about putting it aside. Well, who's worn most of their stuff this year? Nobody, right? So changing that language to, if you haven't worn this in the last 2 years, let's talk about it. And sometimes, Kimberly, it's a gradual letting go. It can be emotional. People hang on to their clothing and their shoes and their accessories for emotional reasons. Like, I'm going to be able to wear this again soon once I lose that 10 pounds that I've been talking about for a while, or they have a memory of the last time they wore that outfit, and and they're very attached to that. And I'm very respectful of that. But when people are ready to show up as their best version of themselves, then they allow that to happen. And what I was going to say before is sometimes it's a gradual process. So we might organize your closet by these things over here are the
Uh-huh.
ones that serve you best for speaking and networking.
Mhm.
Okay. These right here in the middle, when you're ready to let them go, I would recommend you let them go. And these over here are your comfort clothes, and I don't care how long you keep them. You wear them whenever you want to when you're at home, right?
I love that. Yeah. Because we all have our favorite slippers or our favorite t-shirt that you definitely would not wear anywhere, but it
Right.
just feels so good on. You don't want to give it up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We don't have to be camera ready every second of the day, right?
Yeah, which is a good thing. It's nice to just be comfortable sometimes. And
That's right.
I mean, as you were talking about the things with emotions hooked to them, and I think that's why I'm so hooked to my closets. There's some pieces of clothing that it's just like it does have a good memory connected to it, and I don't want to get rid of it because it reminds me of that. And I've heard people
Absolutely.
say, "Well, just take a picture." I'm like, "Well, yeah, but I just it's not the same as having that piece of fabric there."
I have to tell a story on my husband. I would take, we have 4 kids who are all adults now, but as they grew out of their clothes, I would take them to consignment. They'd be in the car, and he'd go in the car before I went and pick a couple things out, like, oh, that was my favorite outfit he wore, when he got his 3-year-old picture or whatever. So we literally have a closet full of kids' clothing. The outfit I wore on our first date, the outfit I wore when he proposed to me, won't let me get rid of them.
So you understand, at least through
I
him,
get
you
it.
kind of understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you said, if you do black too much, then it kind of gets boring. But how do we come out looking fabulous? How do we make that pop, as you call it? If we want to come up, we don't want to look ridiculous. Although I like to really do my what I wear is kind of part of my artist feeling, and so sometimes I will wear some things that are kind of wild compared to what other people would want to wear. But let's say you want to come out looking professional, you want to pop, you want to look your best. How do you do that?
So, good question. Let me start with the artistic part because the creatives, we as humans give you creatives a little more leeway in how you dress and how you show up because it is part of who you are and your creativity, and it's fun. And we expect creatives to look a little different and not look like corporate or stuffy, right? I mean, if you showed up in a tailored gray suit somewhere, I would probably look at you like, what's up with that?
Mhm.
Right?
Right.
But you might expect me to show up that way because that's how you see me in the world. I worked in the school system for 34 years and I had a very tailored corporate looking wardrobe. I had a leadership position. When I retired from that, I took all those clothes to consignment and kind of found my own like Stevie Nicks look. Everything was like kind of flowy, and
Mhm.
layered and drapey. And then I started networking for this image business and found myself moving back toward more structured clothing that looked a little more, business corporate. So there is a ebb and flow in that. I think it's fun to have a variety of things based on where you're going and how you're feeling that day and what message, what is your intention for where you're showing up? How do you want people to perceive you and how do you want people to receive you? And that's all a part of, dressing as well as hair and makeup and attitude. It's the whole package.
Exactly. So let's just start with corporate. What does today's corporate look like? 'Cause I know I grew up, I was kind of coming into the workforce in the 90s, and I remember wearing, a matching suit, a navy blue skirt, a navy blue top with maybe a red or white blouse, pantyhose, pumps, the whole thing. Now I go to work, I'm not in corporate, but still I go to work, I'm not wearing all that. So what
Right.
is the corporate look right now for women?
It's certainly more relaxed from that 80s IBM look, right? Where everything was gray or navy. Um, I do tell you that companies have hired me to come in and deal with their casual Friday situation because it has turned into a situation in our country. I mean, you go to the airport and people are in their pajamas, literally, and their UGG slippers to travel. And I don't really get it. I understand that comfort is important, but there are so many options, Kimberly, to be comfortable, but yet stylish. You don't have to have on slippers. You don't have to have on shoes that look like clogs or, there's so many options. And that's something that I help people with. If that's their goal, a lot of people have feet issues. And so finding shoes or boots that are comfortable but stylish is really challenging for them.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of where the personal shopping part comes in, but I'm derailing myself here. So corporate is more casual than it used to be, but it really is the feeling of your company and who you're meeting with, and again, what kind of message you want to give them. So I would say I recommend people stay away from black suits. It looks a little harsh. It can look a little funeral-like. It can be intimidating.
Mhm.
So navy is my favorite, new black. Navy looks great on everybody. It's softer. And anybody can wear navy as far as their personal coloring.
Mhm.
So it can look corporate, it can look fun. Um, so many different colors of shirts and ties and blouses go with navy. And then the different shades of gray are fun too. There's so many different grays, from a dark charcoal to a light, heather with a little fleck in it. So plaids this season are back, but they're very subtle plaids. They're not like a huge tartan plaid type of thing. But plaids are big for fall, winter 2021.
Okay. Yeah, that gave me a flashback. It's going to show my age now here too. When I was in high school in the 17 magazine, they had these kilts. How they become popular, I don't know, but I saw that and I had to have one of those kilts,
With
definitely
with the big pin in the skirt.
with the big pin in the skirt. You remember that?
I sure do.
And I got one too. I had to have one. My mom got me one. Navy and green, the typical navy and green plaid with the pin in
Right.
it. And it's just so funny how they, what we like or what becomes popular really, really changes. And I mean, also remember earlier than that wearing painter pants that were the color of the lines in the road, that yellow. So it's, how does fashion even come about? I mean, how is it that it changes from yellow painter pants to a kilt with a plaid to,
Right.
whatever the thing is now, bell bottom, straight pants.
Well, that's because all you creatives around the world get together and decide what we're going to wear next season. So it rolls out on the runways in New York, in Paris, in Italy. It's usually to an extreme. And then the retailers take that look and pare it back a little, right? For the everyday person. And then whatever we see over and over across different stores and different websites as fashionable, and the colors too, colors are a big part of that, then that's what we adopt for the season. That's kind of how it just happens.
Mhm. Now, every look doesn't look good on everybody.
That is
That's
for
for
sure.
sure. So, how do you choose the things that actually look the best for you?
That's a great question. So when I work with people, we determine based on their comfort level if they want to be a little more trendy or if they're more comfortable being a little more traditional. You can still take the colors that are hot for the season and incorporate them into your wardrobe,
Mm.
but not necessarily next to your face. So, for example, that burnt orange kind of sienna color the last couple seasons has been really hot. But
Mhm.
most of us in the US have pinkish blue undertones to our skin, which in the industry we call that cool. We're cool. And so those warm colors like yellow and lime green and the oranges aren't complementary up here. So
Mhm.
I say to people, if you really want that, buy a handbag, buy a pair of shoes in that color, buy a belt, buy some kind of accessory or even the pants, but just don't wear it up here because it's about how the light reflects off this color, which then affects your skin tone. So
Mhm.
uh, when I'm going to tell a bad story on myself. When I was a teacher and I needed a personal day off for mental health reasons, I would wear, let's say if I wanted to take Wednesday off, on Tuesday, I'd wear the wrong color of makeup and clothing to school. No joke. And all day long, people would say, "Are you okay? You don't look right." And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't feel good." And then I did it the next
What a great strategy. Oh my gosh, that's the cat's out of the bag. Now people have that strategy. You just wear a
Yeah,
color that looks terrible on you and you look horrible all day. And you get to take the day off. Oh my gosh, that is so funny.
but back to the trends. I do remind people that if you're not in a position to replace your wardrobe every season, then go easy on what's trendy because next season you're going to look so last year, right?
Right.
So I'm so grateful that finally that cold shoulder look where you have the slit here, that lasted for a couple of years. I'm sick of that. I'm so glad that's gone. Last year, the trumpet sleeve was a big deal. That's gone. So what's kind of hot for right now in a sleeve? I don't have it on, but it's a little more of a puffy sleeve, like not a shoulder pad, but it's elevated in the seam here. So it's a
Mhm.
little Victorian looking, like even
Okay.
ruffles around the neck, ruffles on the sleeve, that's back. The puffy sleeve, the higher neck with the little buttons with the tabs,
Mhm.
that's back. Lace insets. So again, it's kind of a Victorian feeling. The
Mhm.
plaid is back. And so I just say if there's one of those things that you like, one of those features, buy one or two, but you don't want to really saturate your wardrobe with it because it's such a statement and it's so related to the current season. Again, next year, it's last year.
Got it. Now you're, just talking to you is making me think about the things in my closet that I'm like, oh, I don't want to be last year. Maybe I could get rid of some of these things in my closet because
That's probably the easiest way to start, Kimberly, is to look at the things that you don't have a huge emotional attachment to and they are trendy and go ahead and let that go and keep the classics. By season, like the width of your lapel of your jacket
Mhm.
constantly changes, but unless it's really extreme, it doesn't really look like last year. People don't pay, unless you're a fashionista, people don't pay that much attention to your sleeve or the width of your lapel or the height of the collar of your shirt.
Mhm. Yeah. So, we're getting into fall. We're actually into fall, going into winter. What are the in colors?
Uh, a lot of the colors that are in those warm tones. So still staying like in the golds and kind of the burnt orange, but also and brown. Um, and the industry tends to do that when it turns to fall and winter. One thing I was happy about this year is you're going to see very little black and gray in the stores. And very often we're so saturated with that
Mhm.
in fall and winter. But there's a lot of light gray and navy, kind of that army green color.
Mm.
That's that's pretty huge.
So I have a question about that army green. So obviously it's called army green because we have put our troops in it for years. But does army green look good on most people or not really?
Not really.
Mhm.
That's one of those warm colors. And 94% of the people that live in our country are better off in the cool tones.
Mhm.
So again, buy the pants in that camo, or buy a handbag, or even uh, um, lost my words, some kind of topper, like a raincoat or something that's kind of fun. You have it on, but you take it off.
Mhm.
Animal print is pretty timeless and it's huge this year.
Mhm.
So animal print is always fun. You can't go wrong in a pair of animal print shoes. You can wear that year after year after year. And
Oh,
it's fun, it's just
it is.
fun.
Yeah. Oh, I love animal print. All different colors. It comes in different colors, different shapes.
Absolutely. And that's pretty big this year too. It started last spring. It still remains. It could be an animal print with a pink background or a fun green background, whatever.
Mhm. So, if a lot of us don't look good in the warm colors, who does look good in the warm colors?
Well, people that have more of a yellow undertone to their skin, there's a lot of cultures that their skin tone is a little more yellow than it is pink. Natural redheads tend to have a lot of yellow in their
Uh-huh.
skin, and so they can wear those colors really well. If you notice the newscasters, it started in the spring. People on TV, people that lead talk shows, they're wearing a lot of yellow, a lot of orange, a lot of bright green, and then they're wearing that color of eyeshadow. I'm more of a traditionalist, and I'm like, why do you have on orange eyeshadow? It's real to me, it's very distracting and it's almost costume like, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. But some people can pull that off. Most of us can't really pull that off.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so let's start with the eyeshadow. Um, is it a rule like certain eye color, you wear a certain eyeshadow color? How do you choose that?
Great question. It's more complimentary to you to choose the eyeshadow colors that complement your eye color than to match your clothing. And especially since I'm of this vintage, I talk a lot to people about, what's more complimentary to you as you age. And as we age, the more matchy we are, the more overdone we look, which makes us look older. So I talk to people about not matching your lip color to the color of your shirt or your dress. Go a tone lighter or deeper. First of all, it's really hard to exactly match it.
Mhm.
And the light in your bathroom that might tell you it's okay is not the light when you get outside, and it looks different. Have you done that before where
Oh, yeah.
you're in your car and you pull down the visor mirror and you're like, oh,
Oh,
I didn't mean for
terrible. Yeah.
that.
It's like, what did I do this morning? And the same thing happens on here when I'm on, camera or whatever. Everything changes. Everything changes.
Very true. So the lighting is a big deal. The camera sees us very different than our naked eye sees us. What were we talking about? Eyeshadow. So, for example, if you have blue eyes, then an eyeshadow in brown or green or gray would be very complimentary. You could do a navy blue eyeliner with blue eyes, but I wouldn't do Britney Spears blue if your eyes are blue. It's too much.
Got it. Oh, got it. Okay.
If you're a light-haired beauty like us and you have brown eyes, I would avoid brown eyeshadow. You could put it in the crease, But when you put it right on the lid next to the brown of your eye, it tends to make us look tired. Your eyes just kind of look like they're sunk back in your head. But if you're a dark-haired beauty with brown eyes, then brown eyeshadow is stunning. So it's a combination of your eye color, your skin tone, and your hair color. Just don't match your lipstick to your shirt, and don't match your eyeshadow to your eye color. And then you
How do you choose your lip color then? Oh, sorry. How do you choose your lip color?
Well, I'll tell you, that is that is challenging for many women, because I see a lip color on you and I say, "Oh, Kimberly, I love that lip color. What is it?" And you say, "Oh, it's Chanel. It's number 47B." And then I go to the store and I buy it. And when I come home and put it on, it looks nothing like your lip color, right? Haven't we all been through that? So frustrating, because we all have different levels of pigment in our lips. And so it changes how that color looks. And it's hard in a store to especially now, right, to safely try on lip color. And then what we do, we put it on and we don't like it and we take it off. Well, that constant put it on, rub it off, brings a flow of blood to the lips, which changes your lip.
no.
So it is really frustrating for people. After doing this for so many years, I can pretty much predict, when I see your natural lip color, what tones would look best on you. But we do get used to seeing ourselves a certain way. And I do gently push people to try some colors they haven't tried before. You know, people say to me, "Oh, I don't wear pink." Well, that's okay. It's just makeup. If we don't like it, we'll take it off. Let's just try a little bit of pink and see what you think. And so, you know, we look at ourselves and we think, "Oh, this doesn't look like what I'm used to." But other people can look at us and think, "Wouldn't that be nice if you tried this? I think that would be stunning on you." So it takes a little bit of a nudge, right?
And some professional help, I'd say. Because I know I'm always attracted to like the really dark or brighter colors. And, maybe that's not the ideal lip color for me. And today I couldn't figure out which to put on. So I just put two on. I just,
I think that's fun about makeup, and especially lipstick, is that you could have a different lip look every day based on using more than one lip color, and then maybe a different gloss even on top of that. So you constantly have the option to create these new looks every day, but you don't have to buy new looks every day. So good for you. You're experimenting.
yes, that's what I'm doing. So talk about women as we get into our, 60s, 70s, 80s. Of course, we still want to look fabulous. So how do we make our makeup and make, a polished look?
I would say the general rule as we age of less is better is the main idea. And so pick something that you want to accent. If you really want like a smoky eye look, then go really, really neutral on your lip. Again, when we have too much on, first of all, the eye that looks at us doesn't know where to focus. Like somebody that has on a statement necklace like this, and then if they had on really huge earrings, you don't know like what accessory, your brain doesn't know, what to look at, okay? So same thing with makeup. If you're gonna do a really strong eye, do a very neutral lip. If you don't like how you look in a neutral lip, then just stick with a strong lip like you just talked about. You tend to like the brighter or deeper colors. Stick there and go a lot more neutral with the eye, and then the lip is the focal point. Sometimes too much blush or bronzer can look overdone and aging. Avoid putting your concealer on in a half moon,
Oh,
because that it really draws attention to, oh, she's got too much concealer on. You know, anything that tends to like jump out at us, that's what we want to avoid, especially as we age. So put your concealer on. I teach people to put it on in a V. You go under the eye and then down the side of the cheekbone and back up, so that this area is lighter and it's highlighted. It accentuates your cheekbones. As we age, we want to draw the attention of the eye up like this, not things that pull us down. So no black eyeliner underneath your eye. I'm not a fan of black eyeliner, period, unless you're a dark-skinned, dark-haired beauty with dark eyes, you can pull that off. But for most of us, as we age, black in makeup is harsh. It's harsh and it's aging. So switch to a brown, a dark gray, navy blue. I'm a big fan of navy blue eyeliner for most people.
okay. So, how do we make our best impression? Like when we're walking into a room, walking into a meeting, how do we do that?
Popping up in the little Brady Bunch square on a Zoom call with
Yes.
40 people, right? Yeah, so honestly, right now, your first impression is more important than ever virtually, because we are deprived of our other senses. I can't walk into a room and hug you and feel the texture of your jacket and smell your yummy shampoo in your hair. Like all those senses that give us the essence of someone else are not available to us right now. It's what we see and what we hear, and that's it. So I won't go into this, but I do a whole workshop and seminar about first impressions and the science behind it, the psychology behind it, because thousands and thousands of studies have been done. But it all comes back to the middle. You still have about 7 seconds to impress somebody. And what that means is your subconscious brain registers a response to an image before your conscious brain says, wow, I love Kimberly's lipstick today. If something has already happened back there, okay? So I say to people, use your 7 seconds wisely, especially in online meetings. Don't be like yelling at your kids when your little square pops up. You need to be here and ready, okay? You've adjusted your clothing, you've fixed your lipstick, you've fixed your hair, you've got the distractions out of the way. Be aware of where the camera is in your phone or in your computer. So for example, right now, I'm gonna look down here. Let's say there were 40 people on the screen. Well, if I'm looking at this little square down here, who's talking, now my eyes are lowered. I'm not even making eye contact with you anymore, right? So be aware of where your camera is. And it takes a little practice, because I'm looking at my camera right now, but I can't see you and I can't see me. And it's kind of odd because I'm just talking into nothing, right? But it takes some practice. And so that connection needs to be like you and I are at Starbucks sitting across the table from each other, right?
Exactly.
Nobody taught most of us how to do this online thing. We were just thrust into this. Some people in the corporate world have been having meetings like this across the world for years, but most of us, nobody taught us this. So I do offer that to clients, a consultation about their physical presence online, and we talk about lighting and camera angles. You've probably been on call with somebody where they're on their phone and their phone's down here and we're like literally looking up their nose. It's not very pleasant. You would never take a selfie of yourself from down here, right? It's always up here. But somebody had to teach us that. We just don't know it. Yeah, so the first impression thing is a big deal because you're competing right now more than ever with so many other people and people that have a higher level of information about how to present themselves online. So you really do, if you haven't, need to work with somebody to clear up your background. Look at your lighting, look at your camera angle. You need to have a lipstick on because you want people, they're paying attention to this. This is where your message comes out. So you need to have a lipstick on. I used to be a group fitness instructor, and I'll never forget this class I took at a community college. And the first thing the woman said to us, she's like, I don't care what your leotard looks like. This was in the Jane Fonda days, okay? I don't care what your leotard looks like, but you need to have on a bright lipstick because people are reading your lips to know what to do in a group fitness class. The music is pumping, people are moving, their visual distractions. They need to be looking right here. I would have never thought it.
I
You
never
would
would have
think to
thought of
put a
that.
red lipstick on to go to the gym, right?
Well, that's really cool. And I was a fitness instructor and I never put on my red lipstick for that unless it just happened to be on from the earlier in the day. So that is a great tip. Never would have thought of that. So I want to talk about networking. So we did mention earlier that you are a chapter president for What Women Want. And and you've been networking for years. So why don't you talk about what women want, the networking, and how to do the best networking?
We talked about first impressions and your entrance into a room, and I became especially aware of that as just a participant in networking groups before I became a leader of a group. You know, I tell people it takes time, it takes money, it takes effort. You might have to make dinner for your family, then you have to travel somewhere, you have to dress, put some makeup on, make sure your hair's clean. It's a lot of effort, time, and money to go to networking groups. So you really have to be invested in making the most out of that time. And there are times where I would come through the door and let's say I haven't seen you in a couple months and I'm excited to see you, but I really already kind of know you. So my emotions say, oh, I want to go sit by Kimberly and catch up with her and be comfortable because that's comfortable, right? It's not risky. It's not really putting yourself out there. But when you do that and you hang with your friends, are you really making the most out of your experience? A lot of people go to networking, but they have more of an introvert personality. And so it's really hard for them. The first couple networking meetings I went to, I found online. I forgot the name of it now. Anyway, and they were co-ed groups and they were meeting after work, like in a bar. I had to sit in the car and tell myself, you can go in there, you can do this, you can go in there. Because I was going into a bar, half the room was men, and I didn't know anybody. And it just was so outside of my comfort zone. So a couple things about that. You have to figure out, once you know who your ideal client is, where do they hang out? And my ideal clients are not men 5:30 p.m. in a bar.
Right.
So I had to figure that out. So yes, again, walk in the door. I do this little pep talk before I get out of my car. I take a deep breath. As I exhale, I roll my shoulders back, pick my chest up, check my smile in my visor mirror, make sure I don't have lipstick on my teeth, and then I get out of my car smiling, because people see you when you get out of your car. You might think they don't, but your first impression starts when the other person sees you, not when you make eye contact with them. So if 40 people are in the room, when you come through the door, they're all looking at you. You can't possibly engage with 40 people at one time, but you got to be on. You have to be off your phone. You have to be smiling and looking into the room, and then engage with somebody and make eye contact. Sometimes it's kind of challenging because people are like split off in little groups, right? Groups of 2, 3, and 4. And people will say to me, how do you approach that and not be rude? Or I just want to go sit down. Well, don't go sit down, because once you sit down, now the expectation is that others will come up to you and talk to you to pull you in. So I say, just approach the group. Don't approach them this way. You want to approach kind of like from the side. This is confrontational when we come like nose to nose with someone. So if you're speaking to a couple other people, I come up to the group, I turn a little bit to the side, and I just listen and nod, and then somebody eventually will acknowledge you.
Okay, that's great. A great tip, because I know I kind of grew up more of an introvert, and it is hard for us to go in and speak to someone. I tend to be able, like, find one person and talk to them for a while, rather than there's other people that make the rounds, and they, like, by the time they're done, they know everybody, and that's a lot harder, I think, for an introvert than it is for someone who's an extrovert.
Absolutely. And I think it might be an unrealistic expectation, depending on how many people are in your networking group or event that particular day, to think you're going to talk to everybody. But if you set the intention that you're going to meet 3 new people that day, that can be done. And when I get out to my car and I have business cards with me, I write down right then on the business card something memorable about that person. So let's say that you just told me that you went and visited your sister in Connecticut, and you try and do that twice a year. I'm going to write that on your business card and look at that. I'm a visual person, so if I write it and your little picture is on your business card, I'm going to make that connection. And then the next time I see you, which could be 2, 3, 4 months later, I'm going to say, Kimberly, I remember you talked about visiting your sister in Connecticut. Have you done that this year? And it will make you feel good, because you were memorable. I remembered it. We have a connection, and then you're going to remember me and think I like you because I knew something about you.
Oh, it's always fun when people remember, things about us. I have I'm an eye doctor, but I have my own eye doctor, and he sees thousands of people a year. But whenever I see him, he remembers about my family. He can ask the questions. Like, I feel like he knows me, and I don't even think he keeps notes. I think he's one of those people that just remembers people, but it's
Sure.
just amazing that, once a year he remembers everything. So yeah, that's a
Right.
great
And how
idea.
does that make you feel? You feel like he knows you, and you feel valued and important. I mean,
Mhm.
the most validating word that humans like to hear is their own first name.
Yes, yes, yeah, and that is so true. So talk a little more about what women want, what it is, and if people would like to get involved, how they do that.
Sure. So one of the gifts that COVID gave us was the ability to meet people across the country and across the world, as we talked about in this virtual situation. So What Women Want Networking is a group that started in New York City. One of the people that Jane Madigan lives in Atlanta. She traveled to New York. She met the founder, Judy Goss, of What Women Want, and said, I think there's a place for this in Atlanta. So Jane brought the concept back to Atlanta, and there are currently, I think, five Georgia chapters. There's one in Connecticut, there's one in Manhattan, there is now one in Texas, and soon to be one in Florida. So that's been kind of fun to meet people from all over the country online and establish relationships with them. I tell people all the time that the networking event is an opportunity to meet people, but that's really just the business card swap. The relationships don't happen until you meet somebody in person. And, most of us are doing that virtually, whether it's a virtual coffee or a virtual margarita or however you structure that with the person. But you then have to reach out to that person, those, let's say, 3 new business cards, and, make a meeting with them and just get to know them. Not sell them. It's not a sales call. It's just a, tell me about yourself situation.
And it's so much fun. Actually, the new president of the Texas chapter, Anita Patel, I actually had a connection call with her yesterday. And it was so fun. Not only did I find out what she does for a living or what she's promoting, I found out she has 2 kids, a furry one and a son, and that she's engaged to be married. So you get personal with people, you really get to know people, and that's really where the connection happens, where it's a true connection. I've been to those networking meetings where everyone's not everyone, but there's people that they're trying to see how many people they can give a card to, or they're only self-centered, they only want to promote themselves, but they really just don't want to connect with other people. And I found with What Women Want, we keep track of the chat, and everybody puts their information in the chat. And so you can connect with whoever you want to. And that's the most important thing, is not just to be out there saying, oh, this is what I do. That is important, but to connect with other people at a much deeper level, because that's where not only business comes from, but sometimes JVs or joint ventures or collaborations on other things. You don't want to collaborate with someone you don't know.
Exactly. And perhaps let's just stay with that example and meet 3 new people. Perhaps you don't need any of their products or services, but you could connect them with someone else. And that's how the magic keeps happening. It keeps paying forward, paying forward, paying forward. And some of the most successful networkers that I know in the Atlanta area are people that are great connectors. That's what they do. They connect people to each other.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
that is the beauty and the magic of it to me. And I enjoy the process. I get a lot of satisfaction about watching these relationships grow and these chapters continue to grow and introducing new people into it. And they're not necessarily all, entrepreneurs or business people. It's all about women lifting each other up, supporting each other, and getting connected.
Yes. Yes. Beautiful. So just to switch gears here, ask a personal question. What gives you the most joy and happiness in your life at this point?
Hmm. I definitely love what I do. When I work with other women, whether it's one-on-one or in a small group, I do workshops, I do makeup lessons, I do skincare, how to take care of your skin for what season we're in, whatever. When I see people being sponges and soaking up the information and embracing it and then applying it in their life. That's really rewarding to me. And the other part of it is I have 4 adult kids, and 2 out of the 4 are married, and I have 2 granddaughters. And so just my whole extended family it's just fun now. I used to fantasize about that when they were little and didn't like each other, you know, creating a lot of chaos. And I think, what will it be like when they grow up? And
Mhm.
it's just so fun when we're all together. It's like a party, and just watching them interact with each other as adults. I get a lot of joy from that.
That's beautiful. So, just so people can actually take advantage of the things you offer, where do people contact you? And just kind of go one by one, what things you're offering right now for people to take advantage of.
Sure. The easiest way to get the full picture of what I do and to schedule some time with me would be to go to my website, which is ddfacesbydeborah.com. And there's a scheduler on there, so you can book a complimentary call with me, and we can expand on anything that I talked about today, or any questions that you have about color or clothing or image or networking or your online physical presence, anything related to that. I'm happy to talk with you um, about that. I've got some testimonials on there, and it also lists classes that I teach. I do some virtually. I'm doing one this Saturday in Flowery Branch, Georgia. It's called 5-Minute Makeup. So I'm going to give you 5 products and teach you how to get out the door in 5 minutes, which is a great class for people that aren't used to wearing makeup, or maybe they're starting a business and they've heard me talk, and I say, you got to put a little makeup on when you're on the camera. This is a great way to ease into that. Super simple. So that class is online as well. I recently had a conversation with a woman that runs a networking group in Ohio, and she's going national as well. And she runs an annual women's conference. And so I will be a featured speaker in February in Ohio, and I'm super excited about that.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today and for all your wisdom and tips and things that we can do to actually present our best self.
Well, it's my pleasure. You're so easy to talk to, and you make me very comfortable, and I feel very honored that you chose me. And I think you're going to be doing a presentation at What Women Want about podcasting. Is that
I
right?
know. Yeah. November 10th, I'll be doing that. So,
Okay.
anybody
Well, I'll
interested
be
in
there.
podcasting, we'll be talking about that. So, I have one last question before we get off today. What is your best advice on living an incredible, amazing life?
Just figure out what really brings you joy, and if there's a way to monetize that and have that, you know, be your job that you can pursue, great. If it's not monetized, then make sure you enjoy it as often as you can, whether it's a hobby or being out in nature or being with your family, whatever that is. I think since March, we've all taken stock in realizing that life is short, it's not promised. And so what you're doing is so wonderful, Kimberly, making us all be so mindful of what does bring us joy,
Mhm.
and how do we experience that more often and regularly. Not do we deserve it once a year when we take a vacation, but how do we experience joy every day in what we do?
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Deborah. And we'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Thanks, Kimberly.